Bennett gets it. Here's Verhaeghe. Shooting. He scores! Carter Verhaeghe! 8:35 into overtime. The Panthers have done it. They've stunned the Boston Bruins.
Welcome to Project Panthers, a weekly podcast discussing your Florida Panthers. Now, here's your host, Brunswick.
What a week. I am your host, Brunswick. The show is Project Panthers, and oh, baby, what a week it has been in Panthers territory. If you hear the sound of my voice, that means you have found us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other major podcast platform out there on the World Wide Web by searching Project Panthers. Remember to follow us on all socials as well by searching Project Panthers. I love all that Twitter chatter, love all the activity, love all the passion from you Panthers fans. Even the hate, some of the hate, I'll take it. Listen, we are going to disagree as hockey fans. Not everyone sees the same things when they watch these games, right? But I'll tell you one thing. We all saw the same thing last night, right? We saw Carter Verhaeghe once again be the overtime hero and propel the Florida Panthers into the second round of the Stanley Cup Finals. What a game winner. What a comeback. Down 3-1 against the Boston Bruins. Not just the Boston Bruins, but the greatest NHL regular season team in the modern era, in NHL history, the largest point discrepancy in NHL history between two franchises playing in round one. 43 points separated the Boston Bruins and the Florida Panthers at the end of the 82-game regular season this year. But that didn't matter one bit once they dropped the puck on game one of the playoffs. Although, the Bruins really made themselves look like those regular season champions, those President's Trophy winners. Going up 3-1, that's not an accident, I guess, right? They didn't do it by fluke, but I will say that I do believe that the Panthers were the better team for the majority of the time within those first four games. I think Boston, throughout the series, relied heavily on their power play. And honestly, I can't blame them. It executed well. Florida's penalty killing was, I can't say average because they were way worse than that. They got the worst penalty kill in the first round, I believe, which could be trouble spell the second round, but, it's neither here nor there right now. But yeah, the Bruins really, I think the Panthers, I said before the series, and I predicted the Panthers to win in 6, and I'm not going to do a full recap of this series. I think if you're here with me right now, you know what happened in this series, so it's not going to be a typical show of recaps. I'm going to review the series in general, and key moments. I'm not going to go through game by game. You know what happened. But I chose the Panthers to win in 6. Because I truly believe that the forecheck that the Panthers had, the veracity that they approach the game, especially when they're really jiving, when they're really feeling good and they're, you know what I'm talking about when you're watching them, especially if you watch this team a lot and if you watch this team all season, especially over the last 2 or 3 months. It's a sprinkle back to what we saw last season when they won the President's Trophy, that swagger. I hate using that word because it's kind of overused, but it is this real confidence in themselves that they can do it, no matter what the situation, no matter what's happening on the ice, no matter what they've gotten themselves into, they can pull themselves out, and they did it again last night. With a minute left, they did it again. This team has learned tenacity and resilience. It's unprecedented the way that this team does not give up. I've been watching hockey for 30 years. I can't remember a team that's been this resilient and a roster that is so, when they're on, I really think that they struggled at the start of the regular season. They weren't again, Maurice has touched on this in his interviews, especially over the last few weeks leading into the playoffs and during the playoffs, that they struggled through training camp with some injuries and developing the system and getting everyone to buy in. And Maurice has mentioned now a couple of times. He mentioned it last night in his postgame, and he mentioned it a few weeks ago, that there was some point where the guys took over the bench, the team, the players, and Maurice was able to just step back and become the, not so much X's and O's, because now they know where the X's and O's goes. One of the reporters asked Maurice about last night during the timeout when they were down 3-2 with 90 seconds left on the clock. He says they didn't really discuss a lot, and because at that point everyone knows what's going on. Whatever the side the face-off is on, everyone knows where to set up. If the puck goes high, rolls around high, everyone knows the play. Guys know where to be. Guys cover everyone. That's the game they play. And it took a long time for everyone to buy in, but everyone seems to have bought in. And that system, approaching this Boston series, running at, I guess I wouldn't say 90% to 100%, because that didn't really start until around Game 5, when they really got that kick in the ass that they needed, that they really could do this. Their style still led to them having a lot of control in this series, a lot more control than people expected, despite being down 3-1. That game two in Boston, that 6-3 win, that was a dominating effort by the Panthers. That third period was a masterclass on how to undress a skilled, systematic hockey team. They made them look silly. And yeah, Boston won the next two games. And yeah, the 6-2 game 4, was ugly. But again, a third period that got away from them. Alex Lyon did an admirable job in these first 4 games. I can't blame him for anything. He gave up a couple of weak goals, but he also kept the Panthers in it a lot of times, made some big saves. But Bobrovsky, came in. He was that calming presence back there, just what the guys needed, I guess. Made some big saves. Didn't have to be incredible, although he was pretty fantastic a couple of times. That Game 5 last-minute save on Marchand on the breakaway, unbelievable stuff. But he played solid enough in the 3 games and change that he played. Won all 3 of them. But he was good enough. The Panthers supported him, gave him what he needed, and he was there. Maurice said that putting in Bobrovsky was not so much about Lions' play, but more about the fact that he is one of your leaders. You look to your Kachucks, your Barkovs, your Ekblads, and your Bobrovskys. He is a leader in the locker room. Whether you like it or not, his contract is, it's been an albatross around this franchise's neck since it was signed, it seems like. But none of us are in the locker room, right? Whether we like it as viewers or not, he is a key member of that locker room, a core member of that locker room. And as a veteran, with the years that Bobrovsky has and the experience that Bob has, his voice is respected in that locker room, regardless of statistics. Hockey players aren't as obsessed with stats as we are. I promise you that. So him coming in, providing that stellar performance back there, that just oozes deep, more and more confidence in the guys. Just more and more confidence as the games wear on, as the games get tighter. I didn't really fear Boston. After Game 5, there was no part of me that worried about Boston at all unless they were on the power play. That was it. The only time I really feared Boston was the power play, because Boston's power play is fantastic. They move the puck around so well. They protect it. They're, Maurice used the word dynamic. That's a great word for it. Dynamic. Very dynamic power play. Panthers penalty kill is also not great. But that was the only time I really feared for Panthers' success. It took them 7 games, 2 overtime victories, but they did it. Last night goes down in Panthers history as one of the greatest games in the franchise's existence. Easily, without question. Making the second round for back-to-back seasons for the first time in 30 years. It's a bit sad that that's a statistic for us, but, we've been waiting for this consistency for this franchise forever. Literally forever. Since its birth. This is what we've waited for. We thought we would have that in 96. You go on a cup run, you think this isn't an apparition. This team has depth. None of these pieces have to go anywhere immediately. Let's go, baby. And then quickly just dwindle off. Just a faint memory for so long, that 96 cup run. And now this is Barkov's core. He's moved on with this team. Huberdeau gets traded in the offseason. Zito really shakes up a long-standing core. Brings in Matthew Tkachuk, who, I cannot say enough about this guy. At this point, it feels like I'm just going to, repeat what everyone has said ad nauseum. But my God, this guy is a gamer. Maybe the biggest gamer in the league. One of, for sure. He's in the conversation. Him scoring that overtime winner in Game 5, that was the turning point. I look at a couple of moments from that Game 5 that really felt like unbelievable swings of momentum. But I think, the Tkachuk goal is easily the X factor on that front. First, it's the reviewed goal on DeBrusk's very light. I can't even call it a hand pass because that would imply that he used his entire hand. It was a index finger pass. It was probably the closest hand pass I've ever seen in my life, but it was a hand pass. Intentional or not, it was. And it aided in Bergeron getting the puck. And props to the video team for that. Honestly, I hope they got a nice steak dinner that night because, boy, did they earn it. So that was a factor. That was a big moment in the series. It really felt like, Boston scoring that goal. Oh, God. They're down 3-1 in the series. They're going to go down 3-2 in the game. Boston is damn near unbeatable when they take a lead into the third period. It kind of felt like that was it. That felt like them really pushing their heels on the throat of the Panthers. But they got the goal reversed, and it changed everything. But, Bob's save at the end of regulation, I think we all had the same thought in that moment. Of course, this is how it ends, right? Of course, this is how it ends. Of course, it's Brad Marchand on a breakaway with 5 seconds left on the clock against, Bobrovsky all alone, a guy who we haven't been able to rely on for the years. But sure enough, calm and collected, makes a big pad save, and the game goes to overtime. Then Ullmark makes that crucial mistake. Panthers get it out front to Tkachuk. He scores it on the backhand, and that is the turning point of the season. That goal is the turning point of the series. Because, yes, obviously the momentum swing of winning Game 5 in TD Garden, in the home of the Bruins, and showing them that you're not going to die, that's a big momentum swing in its own. But the fact that it's Matthew Tkachuk, the guy that all those Bruins, they've already played him 5 games, so they hate him already. So that's just another layer of disdain that the Bruins have for this moment. Everyone thought the series was over. They got to pack all their shit up. They got to fly back down to Florida again for another Game 6. That's a pain in the ass. Everyone's got to do it. And, Tkachuk's goes in the locker room. They got that little puck grid thing. I think we've all seen it on the tapes online. that little fancy Stanley Cup. I think a lot of teams have it now. It's like a what are those things called? The advent calendar. It's like it reminds me of like a hockey advent calendar, but it's like reverse where you actually put things into it. So yeah, where you every time you win a game, they're putting these pucks into these little slots on this calendar thingy or whatever it is, this board, trying to get to 16 Ws for the Stanley Cup, obviously. And Tkachuk gets the puck, and he's the player of the game or whatever, and he walks over and he says, "Remember this room, boys. We're going to be back here for Game 7, all right? Remember this room." And isn't that just, my God, how do you not just fall in love with this kid immediately, right? Like in that moment, this guy is just, he's such a leader. He's such a gamer. He's just what you want in the playoffs. He is that guy that the Panthers have needed and we as fans have clamored for decades now, right? We've never had a player like this. Never. We've never had a player to watch like this as fans and viewers. Never. So, I sat here on this podcast back in June of last year, almost a year ago, June or July. God, when did that trade happen? It was later in the summer. It was definitely July, so my days are off. But regardless, when Huberdeau was traded, I had a lot of trouble stomaching that trade. I did. It was tough to see Huberdeau go. A player you've watched grow from, a scrawny little kid to a, full-grown man who's putting up 100-point seasons. And it was sad to see him go, but, obviously very sad to see Weegar go as well. That was a little bit more, there was a little bit more baggage there with Weegar, I feel like, than Huberdeau, despite Huberdeau's disappearance in the playoffs. Weegar's giveaway at the end of Game 2 was, I don't think any Panthers fan can forget that. Even though it's just one moment, and Weegar was so great, it's hard to forget one moment, whatever. I digress. Giving up the assets on top of that, whatever. You're getting Matthew Tkachuk back, right? Matthew Tkachuk. We took the heart from the Calgary Flames. We literally ripped Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk from the Calgary Flames, and a year later, they fire their coach. Just today, they fired Sutter. That's it. Bye-bye. We ripped the heart out of the Calgary Flames, and we took it and we inserted it into our heart. Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk drive the train of this team. They are the ones pumping that coal into the engine nonstop, feeding the boys. Incredible. They won Game 5 for the Panthers. But then Game 6, no. Eetu Luostarinen, Anton Lundell, Sam Reinhart, they said, no. You guys are having all the fun. We want to have some fun. They played an incredible Game 6. Like, I've never seen Luostarinen and Lundell play together like that before. Maurice has tried this line a lot throughout the season, but never have they executed to this level. And what a better time, right? There's no better time, I think. Eetu had 2 points that game. Lundell had 2 assists. He had 4 assists in his last 2 games. Like, just stepping up when they needed you the most. That puck pursuit game, Panthers were relentless in the last 3 games, pursuing the puck and focusing on that forecheck. I said that would be their success, that would be their key to success, and they didn't stop. They stuck to their game plan. And honestly, I tell you, my friends, after they won Game 6, I felt really, really good. I felt so confident going into Game 7. There was just something different about this team. And, all the pressure was on Boston, obviously. Just the amount of extra narrative that's there for them going into this game. Not just the fact that they were up 3-1. That alone is a pressure-filled situation to be going in at home to win that game after, kind of semi-already blowing it. That alone is pressure enough. But then to have this this background of the President's Trophy, and not just the President's Trophy, but an 82% winning percentage at home, and a 65 win season, 62 win season, and a just record-setting year all across the board. That pressure, that's a lot of extra pressure. A lot. And they crumbled. I felt good going into 7 because of that pressure, and they crumbled under it. They couldn't handle it. The veterans on Boston, they've been there before. They had a cup appearance a few years ago, lost to St. Louis. This team is no joke. They dominated the regular season. That doesn't just happen by accident. But they couldn't handle Florida. Florida played them really well in the regular season. One of the only teams to do so. And I do wonder, if the Bruins played the Islanders in the first round, what would that series look like? Because the Panthers were the only team to really have the quote-unquote, Bruins number. And I say that very loosely because they still went 2-2. That's not really having their number. That's just having their number in a season where they lost like 15 games or whatever. Mind you, the 21 games they lost this season over the course of the regular season and playoffs, 6 of those were from the Florida Panthers. So 6 of 21 losses this season for the Bruins came from the Florida Panthers. That is, oh my God, that stat is, I want to print that stat and hang it on a poster above my bed and just stare at it all day and all night. That's beautiful. That is just beautiful. But Game 7, like I said, I was confident going into it. I felt really confident when they were up 2-0. And I tell you, this league, this NHL, I really hate complaining about the officials. I can't stand it. I think it's a cop-out. I think the refs are always going to be doing game management. They're always going to be doing things. And my thought has always been, once you are complaining about the refs too much, you've lost focus on the task at hand, which is winning the game, right? But man, oh man, this game, I feel it never before has it felt like the league really wanted the Bruins to advance. And it was blatant. It was so blatant, especially those last 2 power plays at the end of the second period. The last one on Montour, where Pastrnak clearly just fell into him. And, I mean, I guess you could make the argument that Montour had his stick up, but, I mean, Pastrnak is falling into him. Do you want him to just sit there and let him fall into him? Like, it's incidental contact. It's going to happen. And the refs knew that they screwed up because the Panthers had they had a couple of very blatant hooks to start the third period after the Bruins had already scored. And I think that was the refs sort of saying, like, hey, it's okay. It's okay. We'll let you guys get away with those. But oh man, it was tough. It was real tough. Sorry, it was Ekblad that took those penalties, I believe, right? Not Montour. I think I said Montour. Regardless, when Pastrnak scored that, no, it was Montour. It was Montour. I don't know what I'm talking about. When Pastrnak scored that go-ahead goal, just a few minutes after they tied it, that was the first time my confidence kind of wavered. That was the first time because of the Bruins and their ability to shut down in the third period. But honestly, I turned to my wife with about 12 minutes left in the game, 12 or 13 minutes, and I said, we're going to win this. I said, we're going to win this game 4-3. We're going to win it. So much so, and I was so confident in this, my friends. I'd lie to you not. I was so confident that when Brandon Montour scored to tie it up with a minute to go off the deflected Barkov shot, squeaked the puck past Swayman, I barely celebrated. A, because there was a job to be done, but because I knew they were still going to win. I knew there was a bigger celebration in my future coming. I knew it. I knew it deep down inside of my blood. One of my best friends called me in between. He's a Leafs fan, by the way. He called me in between the overtime and between the third period and overtime and said, "What do you think?" I said without a doubt and waver in my voice, these guys are going to win this game. They're going to win 4-3. It's not even going to make it to a second overtime. Maybe not 10 minutes. Here we are, 8:35. Carter Verhaeghe does it again. And what is it? Who is it? Who is it that contributes to this goal, that sets Verhaeghe up? It's the heart of the Florida Panthers, Sam Bennett and Matthew Tkachuk. Tkachuk tracks that puck down. You know, it's a chippy little battle, but there is very few in this league as good as Matthew Tkachuk on those board battles, and getting that puck, to fishing that puck out on a forecheck. There are very few as good as Matthew Tkachuk. And he gets it, and he finds it, just kicks it a little bit to Bennett. If you watch the replay, it's a little kick. Bennett has the open space, finds Verhaeghe on the circle. Marchand gives Verhaeghe just a little too much time. And if you look at this replay as well in slow-mo, Marchand is about an inch away, maybe less. It's insanely close to tipping this puck, and it's just another old shot into the stands. The Panthers had so many chances to start the overtime. Bennett had a couple of solid chances. Tkachuk had that breakaway, you know, and I've watched enough hockey where one team has enough chances, eventually the tides turn and the other team's going to get chances. And most of the time, they don't make the mistake of messing it up. But that wasn't in the script this time. That wasn't in the script. Panthers just kept coming at them. And, you know, I got to give it to Bobrovsky. Some people are saying that it was a gamer move. Some people aren't saying. On the Sportsnet broadcast last night, 30 seconds into the game, the Bruins were all over the Panthers. And Bobrovsky called the ref over to look at the net because the moorings were a little bit loose. That happens. You know, what happens is sometimes the ice on the moorings, the moorings sit in the ice in a little hole. And sometimes that ice can be a little chipped away at, and it loosens the moorings so the goalies can't push off the goalpost as much as they want to. Not as effectively. So Bob called them over, and they took a nice little powwow, a nice 2-3 minute break. Everyone kind of settled down. Heart rate sort of slowed down. And listen, I don't know if Bob did it on purpose. I don't think he did, but I do think that he knew what it was all going to mean. That it was going to mean like a little few minute break. It was going to stop the momentum that the Bruins had. It was good. The Bruins were really good at scoring early off the periods, off of intermissions. You know, they did it in the third period, earlier in the game, 55 seconds in, right? So I think there was an element of strategy to Bob's decision there. I'm not gonna lie, but sure enough, Carter Verhaeghe, he rips it home. Panthers get it done. I've just been basking in the glory that it is for the last day. It feels nice for the entire hockey world to sort of pat you on the back and say thanks. Hey guys, thanks. Thanks for beating those big bads, you know? But now it's on to the Leafs, and it's going to be a hell of a series. Am I afraid of the Leafs? I mean, probably in the same way that I was afraid of Boston. I don't know what to make of this series. Before the Boston series, if you ask me on paper, do I think Toronto or Florida would win in a series? I would pick Toronto. But after watching the series against Boston and seeing a lot of Toronto's games against Tampa and seeing how close that series was despite a very depleted Tampa roster, I don't know. Again, you could say Boston's roster was depleted with Bergeron and Krejci being hurt as well, right? And apparently Ullmark had some injuries as well. I don't know. It'll be close. I think the key will, again, be the power play. If the Panthers can stay to the box, they'll have a much better chance of success. But if they can't stay disciplined, Toronto will likely punish them. And, boy, I do not want a repeat of last year's sweep. I want competition. And I do believe that the Panthers can do this. I think that 5-on-5, they are the better team. Despite the depth that Toronto has, I think they were built to beat Tampa Bay. They were not built to beat a Florida Panthers team that has been beaten down and rebuilt again. We'll see. But, oh boy, until then, until game 1 on Tuesday in Toronto, I'm going to continue to bask in this beautiful, beautiful feeling that is beating the Boston Bruins. And honestly, they might suck for a long time after this. Bergeron's probably going to retire. Hell of a career for Patrice Bergeron. Hall of Famer, first ballot, no doubt. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. Looks like he's going to retire. So honestly, I guess it's, a thing that he goes out this way. But, it has to happen. So whatever. My Jaguars destroyed Dan Marino in his last career game. Shit happens. But yeah, I'm going to just keep enjoying it. And just the fact that this team is good enough to win first round playoff series is 2 years in a row. That even alone feels like a sentence that I never expected to say out loud. But here I am. Incredible effort. Thank you, boys. Thank you for providing us fans with such a incredible little run there early on. What a surprise. A lot of us counted them out in January, and they just did not stop. The Panthers and Leafs have actually almost identical records over the last 30-some-odd games. I believe they're like Panthers had 24 wins and the Leafs had 25 wins over the same span. So damn near identical records. So the teams are both playing good hockey. Should be a fun series. Bye-bye, Boston. I'd say sorry or whatever, but I don't give a shit. Good riddance. No one likes you. No one's ever going to like you except for your fans. That's it. No one. Boston sucks. And, I don't really talk that much shit on this podcast, but boy, am I ever happy to kick those Bruins out of the playoffs. Well done, boys. Paul Maurice, what a stud. Huh, what a stud. Love his coaching. Everyone's worshiping Maurice at the altar nowadays, right? Funny what a playoff series win will do for you, But, memory is short in the NHL. Thank you, though, for tuning in to this special installment of Project Panthers. I can't predict when the next show is going to be. This has been all over the place for me. But listen, if you came and you listened to the show, you came back, you saw the alert, I really appreciate that. I'm ever so thankful for you coming on this ride for me still. I really hope these Panthers continue to advance, but I already view this season as a huge, huge win, all things considered, with the Yandel dead cap space, all that nonsense. Mark Stahl is the team's fourth defenseman. They are already exceeding expectations. But let's get at least a win in round 2, Let's get that. Hopefully, maybe. We'll see. We'll see, though. It's going to be a hell of a series. I'm excited. Remember to follow on socials by searching Project Panthers. That's at PROJ Panthers on Twitter, and searching Project Panthers on Facebook, Instagram, all the major social media platforms. And remember, give me some likes and some 5-star ratings if you can on the podcast websites. So that helps me get some listenership out there and get some more ears onto the podcast. I appreciate anything you do. And again, thank you for stopping by and listening to the show. It's been a really fun couple of weeks in Pantherland. Let's hope it continues, all right? Go Panthers, go. Have a week.